Welcome to MuggleCast, your weekly ride into the Wizarding World fandom. I'm Andrew.
I'm Eric.
I'm Micah.
And I'm Laura.
And on this week's episode, we are continuing to review Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore. And in this episode, we'll hand out some awards. I guess we'll call them Beasties. Is that cool? Is that acceptable?
Yeah,
Is that
I think that's
anywhere? Great. Are we cleared?
I think we can.
You know, we didn't consult with the Beast podcast, but I think it'll be okay. We just made it up right now, we swear.
And we're going to discuss loads of odds and ends that we didn't have time for in last week's episode. And if you haven't listened to that episode, definitely do so, because we focused on the biggest moments in the film. And this time we're going to get into more of the nitty gritty. So spoiler warning, if you haven't seen the movie by now, you will get spoiled. If you are new to MuggleCast, welcome to the show. Make sure you're following the show for free in your favorite podcast app so that you never miss an episode. And if you want to help us make all this great content every week, visit patreon.com/MuggleCast to support us. And to thank you for your support, we'll send you physical gifts like this t-shirt that I'm wearing. This went out a couple years ago. You'll also receive all kinds of cool digital benefits throughout the year. So let's get into our beasties.
We could call them newts.
The nudies.
The nudies.
You know what?
Wait, that sounds bad. Never mind.
I have it.
Like
so does beasties.
I've combed the screen plays of both movies and the third one, which isn't even out yet, but I've done the work and I've come up with the perfect word from the movies to call our awards. The Bunties.
Oh.
The
Okay.
Bunty Award.
Because she is a big fan of at least one person in particular.
Yeah.
So I like it from that angle,
Let's
too.
do the Bunty Awards.
Okay.
The
The
Bunties.
Bunties. The Bunty Awards. Bunties? Bunties.
Bunty Broadacre. Who expected that she would get a last name?
Well, speaking of a standout character, let's start with our favorite new character of this movie. I'll say Laylee Hicks, played by Jessica Williams. We were very excited about her for a while. Brand new character, Ilvermorny Professor. There are some questions. We can get into this now or maybe later. How exactly she got involved with Dumbledore, with the Scamander 6. And I will say the one issue I had with Laylee is the accent. It wasn't consistent, it didn't seem, in the movie. And I think I understood what Jessica Williams was going for. Ilvermorny is in the New England part of America, so she was going for like a 1920s New England accent. I understand that, but just it didn't seem consistent to me. And that happens with actors sometimes. They try to do an accent and they kind of fall off. Was it just me, or was the accent a little strange?
No, I agree. I think the accent came on a lot stronger during her introductory scenes in the film, and then it became a lot more subtle after that.
Okay.
I don't know if that was an intentional choice or not, because sometimes, I mean, as readers, we know this. If you look at Hagrid as an example, his accent is written a lot more strongly earlier on in the series, and it becomes more subtle as time goes on because it can be aggravating to read that kind of strong emphasis over and over. So I don't know if that's what she was going for here, if that's what she was directed to do, but I did notice it. But she was also my favorite. Loved her.
It made me interested in knowing what the accent was. Like, what did people talk like that? Did she base it on a specific historically accurate person of the time? And if so, what? Because I'm interested. Like, it was just a very interesting way of talking, and you're giving information like this.
Yeah.
And, you know,
it almost had a hint of being British at times, but what I
definitely
took away,
pompous.
well, I'm wondering, is it that like the professorial intellectual side of her? That's how she speaks. I still really loved her character. I
Me
thought
too.
definitely a standout in this film. I also really liked Mads Mikkelsen as Grindelwald. I wish he was in this role from the beginning, to be honest with you, because he was just the way he delivered lines, the evil that he conveyed without being like so in your face, which that's how Johnny Depp is. I really enjoyed him.
Yeah. The Mads Grindelwald has a very quiet capacity where you know what he's thinking, but he's not saying it out loud. Like we were talking about last episode, but like the disappointment in his face when the Chillin thing is revealed he doesn't immediately get angry or react. He's kind of letting it's almost as if he thought maybe the real Chillin would still bow to him, because he's not immediately trying to shut down Credence and everybody else. When Credence first stands out against him, he's like, okay, we'll see how this plays out. And I'm just like, that level of patience and almost like calm certainty that your evil is going to win in the end is entirely a new take on the character and makes him a different character, a different villain than, say, Voldemort. And I think that kind of character stuff is really important for the series to do at this juncture, to really separate the characters. And so getting somebody like Mads to do this kind of a character is very, very enticing.
He doesn't get rattled very easily.
Yeah.
Whereas if you think about when we've seen Voldemort throughout the course of the Harry Potter films, he was very excitable, right? In the graveyard, in that final battle at Hogwarts. There's other moments I'm sure we could point to. Grindelwald seems very like composed, tactical. He knows what he wants to do. If something gets thrown his way that throws him off, he's able to pivot. And I know I mentioned this in the last episode, but to me, that's what makes him even scarier than somebody like Voldemort.
And the fact that you can meet him face to face and it doesn't automatically equal death. I mean, these villains have very different motives. And of course, Voldemort isn't human. Grindelwald is a human. Right. So yeah, I think one of the eeriest things for me when it comes to Grindelwald is just that you can sit at a diner with him. You can meet him at the end like everybody was in Bhutan. He's approachable, which sounds like a weird way to describe it. But when you compare him to Voldemort, he is very much approachable.
Yeah.
And just think about the dinner party too, right? Like when Jacob pulls out his wand, he doesn't even react.
Yeah.
He just kind of sits there and gives you that villain-esque smile, that smirk.
Yeah.
And somebody else cries, "Assassin!" As far as new characters, characters that we liked the most, the Bunty Award has to go to Bunty. For me, I like that we did get substantially more time with her. It did raise kind of more questions than answers in terms of is she's been with Newt for how long, and she's really into Newt for how long, and is she accepting of his relationship with Tina or not? I'm still a little confused, but overall, the Bunty character was enjoyable in this film, and I really liked Yusuf Kama. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I think he looked very nice. He definitely had an arc and a purpose. He has a moment where he's able to kind of get them out of trouble too later on. But again, some of the inner more motivations were just not clear while watching it. And like, for instance, is his memory of his sister, which Grindelwald just completely removes his entire memory of Lita, we're meant to believe, is that gone for good? Is it gone permanently? Because if so, that's a changed man. And what steps would Yusuf have taken to prevent against that? And then when he does come to the good side at the end, why did he do it? So there's still so many questions, but I would say overall, from the maybe caricature that character, or that these two characters, Bunty and Yusuf, might have been in the second film, in this film, they at least felt like they were actors being able to do a performance. They were given space to do a performance.
I agree. I really liked both of them in this movie, and it made me just sad that they didn't get more development in the last film, because clearly they needed it. For Bunty, we can at least understand why she's there, because she's Newt's assistant, right? But even though I really liked Yusuf in this movie, I'm still struggling to understand why he needed to be there, apart from we have to close this loop. We open this loop and we have to close it.
On the train, Theseus, is running through everybody who's a part of the team and kind of explaining why each of them are there. And he's like, oh, and we also have Yusuf of a long family bloodline. Like, his whole reason for being there is because he's related to the Lestranges. I'm just like, what? How? Why is this significant?
Remember, Lestrange is his mother's rapist.
Mm-hmm.
He is not a Lestrange, except his stepdad, right? But his family is, I think, Senegalese, and it's Kama. He's of the Kama bloodline.
But why else does his bloodline matter?
Well, right, that's the thing, because Theseus definitely says a wizard from a long French bloodline.
Yeah.
But like,
and
yeah,
does that mean he's good at fighting evil wizards? I don't
you
get
know,
it.
pure blood really matters in this series, actually.
Yeah. It sucks because the actor's great and his performance was on point. I really enjoyed the moments when he was on screen. I felt very drawn to his character when he was on screen. I just didn't understand why he was there.
You can see the struggle.
Yeah. I mean, he does end up being a part of Dumbledore's plan. Dumbledore's idea is to confuse Grindelwald. And maybe we could talk about this a different time because, you know, I said this a few weeks ago. We saw this clip, Newt saying Dumbledore's idea is to confuse Grindelwald. And I was like, okay, that sounds like a great premise for the movie. And then this is when I started watching the movie for the first time, I started having to lower my expectations because it wasn't abundantly clear how they were going to confuse Grindelwald. One of the clear ways, and I actually forgot about this at first, Micah had to remind me, was by Yusuf initially siding, air quotes, with Grindelwald and then changing his position. So I guess that was one way that they were intentionally trying to confuse Grindelwald. And then maybe there was one other way, but I thought there was going to be like 4 to 5 different futures that they were all kind of mapping out, including Jacob becoming a wizard. And that just all didn't pan out. And that was a disappointment.
What did Dumbledore give Yusuf?
See, that's unclear.
In that scene, he says, I have what I need.
Yeah.
So
what is it?
Whatever was communicated to him was communicated before they even got there.
That's part of what I think was missing from the storytelling for Yusuf is I think Dumbledore gave him clear direction to go inside with Grindelwald because of what happened to Lita, right? There's this kind of emptiness within him, but what confuses me is certainly he would blame Grindelwald for what happened to his half-sister. He's the reason why she's dead. So why would he all of a sudden make that change and go inside with the person who's responsible for it? But I also wonder too, and this was never explained, Queenie, right? Queenie is like the bouncer for Yusuf ultimately being able to side with Grindelwald, at least in terms of Grindelwald being able to trust Yusuf after the memory is removed. I'm wondering now, because this happens after the Chillin is killed, right? And she witnesses that.
Yeah.
Is she already starting to move away from her allegiance towards him? And does she lie about Kama's true allegiance?
Yes.
Right.
I think
that was the
But
impression
again,
I
none of
got.
that's explained.
It's not. No. You just have a pregnant look, in the eye, and you're supposed to understand. But yeah, I think at that point, Queenie is inviting as much chaos as possible into Grindelwald's court because she wants to make sure that she has a way to get out eventually. But then if his motives aren't pure, if she can see that Yusuf is indeed wanting to still topple Grindelwald, what specifically is making him want to do that? And we don't know. And like I said in the Theseus actually asked him when they're about to cross the bridge and he just saved all of them. He says, oh, what took you so long, or what made you change your mind, or something. And it just cuts away. And I'm like, I would have liked to have known this. And would it upset you guys to know that the pre-screening that our friend, our correspondent, saw that was writing to us said that there was a line where Yusuf explained his allegiance and explained his reasoning, and it was cut. So these cuts actually make the movie more confusing, not less confusing. In that scene, he supposedly said that without Lita, he doesn't have a family until he found this group, and this group is now his family. That would have explained everything to me, at least gone a little bit of a way to explaining why he is on the side of good versus the side of bad. But apparently that was filmed and even made it into some pre-screenings.
Yeah, that's a miss.
Yeah, so that was that test screening that was like a good 6 months ago or something.
Why take it out of the movie? It's not pacing. It's an explanation. It's not.
If we talk about things being cut, I think we also have to remember this movie was 2 hours, 20 minutes, which is pushing it in terms of the length. And seeing it the second time, there wasn't really a scene. I didn't go to the bathroom before seeing it my second time. I thought, I've already seen the movie. I can just leave whenever. It's fine. I found myself not wanting to leave the movie the entire second time I saw the movie, even though I knew what was coming and even though I had to use the bathroom.
Apologies to your bladder. Is this where you're going to tell a story about a popcorn bin or a cup?
No. I bring this up, though, because I felt like there wasn't a moment where I could walk away. I wanted to see everything again. So that's a positive. I didn't feel like leaving the theater. Actually, Pat had to use the bathroom at one point. It was right before the big Credence reveal. And he was like, "Can I go to the bathroom right now?" I looked over. I said, "No, you better not go right now. Wait a few more minutes." And then he peed his pants. It was really embarrassing.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Way to put him on blast here, Andrew. Jeez.
Do we want to talk about Aberforth for a second as a new character too? Because I thought that that was another great casting job. And he really delivered for, the small parts of the film that he was there. I think the reveal about being Credence's father was shocking to say the least. We talked about that in the last episode, but I think that, he kind of has that, sassy Dumbledore quality to him. We see it, even when McGonagall shows up at the Hogshead and, he's basically telling her to go bleep off, but then comes back and apologizes to her a few minutes later.
Yeah, I liked him.
Everything about how he's holding Credence and he's like interacting with his son. Once he has he's given a purpose about midway through the film. He's enjoyable before then, but once he's given a purpose, you can see he really takes to it. And that was very emotionally satisfying for me. But I want to know how the mirror thing got started, why it works, how it works, who was the first person to contact the other person. And also if Dumbledore's line about we didn't know is true, then that throws another kink in. How the hell is this occurring? That Credence is communicating with his dad and his dad with him. Do they know who they're talking to? They're saying very important stuff. Like, do you know what it's like to be alone? And forgive me. But do they know? Are they having a meaningful conversation? How did it get started? I'm just so mad that it's supposed to be exciting, but it doesn't pass my sniff test.
Yeah.
Agree.
It's mirror pen pals, but you don't know who's on the other end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do they know? Unless they've told each other.
There must be some sort of direct line that they've set up, I guess.
But to Eric's point then, how can Albus say we didn't know? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Unless we're supposed to believe that because this is at Nurmengard, maybe it was an established communication between Albus and Gellert that somehow Aberforth figures out and is able to get in touch with Credence that way. But it's just like, again, the fact that we have to speculate about this just shows that there could have been an easy answer in here and they just didn't give it.
It's like, hey, Ab, I need to use your mirror. I'll be right back. And he goes behind the bar and he writes a love letter to Gellert.
Let's move on to best character in the movie, new or old. I'm going to have to give my Bunty to Jacob. Just time and time again, Jacob in this series is hitting it out of the park. I feel like Jacob was just at another level in this movie, especially with going through port keys or going through walls. Like, he would go through a moment of pain whenever he was being transported. And it turned into a running joke, particularly in this movie. And it was just really funny watching him suffer.
I agree.
And then,
100%.
Of course, his love for Queenie was really palpable. And yeah, God, just so much to love about Jacob.
Yeah, Dan Fogler's performances in this role have just been out of the park. Love him for the characterization he gives Jacob, but also to the point we've raised before on the show, he's really representing us as film goers, right? He's our sort of bridge into the wizarding world, and we get to experience the discomfort and the wonder and the magic firsthand through him, and he does an amazing job conveying that in his performance. Jacob is also my favorite for this movie.
He's, for all those reasons, Jacob is truly amazing. I would give my Bunty Award, however, to Dumbledore, Jude Law's performance of Dumbledore, because for the very, I think, first time you really believe that Dumbledore is a person that has hurt, that has felt love, that has felt the weight of his own past mistakes, not because of what he's saying, not because the story he tells about accidentally having a sister die, but because of those quiet moments where Newt offers some, suggestion and he like nods understandingly. And like, he just knocked it out of the park. I feel like Jude really understands the character and is connected with the character in a way that we just have not seen before in any of the Harry Potter films. It just felt real in a really amazing way.
And again, I just have to add, it has to be celebrated that a gay romance is being prominently depicted in this movie. No, there wasn't a kiss or that Eric proposed might occur a couple weeks ago that we censored out. But Dumbledore is explicitly saying, I was in love with Grindelwald. I loved him. I love you. You don't see that in many movies, especially big blockbusters. So even though I tweeted this the other day, the J.K. Rowling of it all puts a damper on things. It was a big deal. I wish we could celebrate that more. Unfortunately, we can't, but we have to keep that in mind. Yeah.
I mean, I am curious to know, and I'm glad you brought it up, Andrew. I have to think that as a longtime fan of this franchise, seeing that representation on screen has to be really impactful. One of the big criticisms of the Dumbledore reveal is that we found out he was gay after the books were published, and there was never anything in the source material to substantiate that. So I have to imagine that for gay fans, this was a big deal.
Yeah, I think it is. I think part of the reason it's not being as celebrated as much as it could, besides J.K. Rowling, is because we have known about it for so long. It still is worth celebrating that it's finally in canon. But yeah, just because we have known about it for so long, it doesn't feel as big of a moment.
Yeah.
I'm talking in circles, but again, it is a big deal, even though it's not.
Well, and I thought that Jude Law and Mads Mikkelsen did a really great job of building that chemistry and the tension between the two of them. It was believable. I'm not really familiar with both of those actors and like their personal lives, but there is sometimes when straight actors are cast in gay roles, it's very clear that it's like, oh, they were just cast, and like it's very clear that there's not tension or chemistry. I felt the chemistry and the tension between these characters, regardless of, what their sexual identities are outside of acting. I thought they did an amazing job.
Yeah. It's basically like they're starting over with each movie. These actors having to create a lived in, believable, built, pre-built world. And they nail it in this one with the backstory between these characters, because this is the first time we see those characters really interact.
And it's no more evident than at the very end of the film, where they can finally move against each other, but they choose not to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And so what does that have to say about their relationship? And just
they love each other.
Going back to the Bunty, I would give it to Grindelwald. I have talked about this already, but I just thought Mads Mikkelsen was really unbelievable in this role and delivered on every front. No matter the character, by the way, that he was interacting with, and he interacts with a fair amount of the cast throughout this film, he just was able to deliver and, really, really measured up. It was a tall task too. Replacing Johnny Depp is no easy feat. Certainly there was a lot of controversy surrounding the role itself. So his ability to just step into it and really not miss a beat and present a character that was, different from what we've seen before, but enjoyable. I really, I was impressed.
Little aside, Mads did an interview about playing Grindelwald, and he described it as chaotic, I think because they kind of threw him in there in the last moment. He also said he didn't get a chance to talk to Johnny, and he would have liked to have done that, but he couldn't. I don't think he shared why. I mean, clearly that must have been somebody's decision. Maybe somebody at WB was like, Yeah, you can't talk to him. I mean, Johnny must have been pissed too, right?
Yeah.
So he doesn't really want to help.
Well,
Mads
Johnny
and
still got
Fantastic
paid a
Beasts.
full actor's salary for this movie.
Right, yeah. Yeah, he did.
WB being like, he can't sit with us.
But Mads deserves some extra credit, I think, for kind of being thrown in there at the last minute. I
Oh,
think we
yeah.
even knew Johnny, didn't he film his scenes for this movie?
I think he'd
think
filmed
before
a
they
scene.
At least some of them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
one scene. That's right.
Well, but yeah, certain threads are just extremely consistent. Like the way he treats Credence, for example, where, you know, he's just only as far as he can utilize him, and then he has just disdain, just complete disdain for him. So like the way that Mads did that, you know, twice you failed me. It just felt immediately like lifted off of a continuation of the previous films.
Let's take a little break to tell you about this week's sponsor, BetterHelp, who provide therapy online. Stress will show up in all kinds of ways, and in a world that's telling you to do more, sleep less, and hustle all the time, here is your reminder to take care of yourself, do less, and maybe try some therapy. We all experience stress, but the good news is that it can be managed with the help of a therapist. As somebody who has always worked for themselves, as you might be able to imagine, that comes with a lot of stress. Before I started working with a therapist, my stress levels were at an all-time high. And only after I hit a breaking point did I decide to start seeking therapy to receive the help that I so desperately needed. I would highly recommend not letting yourself get to the point that I did. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It is much more affordable than in-person therapy. Give it a try and see if online therapy can help lower your stress. MuggleCast listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/MuggleCast. That's BETTERHELP.com/MuggleCast. A link is also in today's show notes. Okay, so continuing with our bunties, let's get to I love this name now, Eric. Good choice.
Yeah.
Favorite new beast? You three go first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the chillin', for sure. And I have a few major problems with the movie. One of the major problems I have with this movie is the killing of the chillin' at the beginning of the film, the mother chillin', because it is just so sad.
It's hard to watch.
It's
Yeah.
more sad than it needs to be. The creature dies with like its tear, you know, comes out at the end, and like Newt. I was just like, what horrible movie have I decided to go and see in the theaters today? That was how I felt while watching it. Like, I've made a mistake. This film is just going to showcase the absolute cruelty that exists in the world. But that's an accomplishment to feel so boldly about a fake beast. It's the Jurassic Park syndrome. Like, you care about the Triceratops that's sick. It's that in this movie. And so for that reason, the fact that the chillin' is adorable, the fact that the plot does rely on getting to know the beast, which I find very satisfying from a beast standpoint, the chillin' is my MVP.
Same.
Well, the viciousness of that scene reminds me of the viciousness of Grindelwald killing the baby in the last movie. It just
Yeah.
felt so out of the blue and almost unnecessary. But that's Grindelwald, I guess. That's what they're
Right.
trying to convey with him.
Yeah.
He goes
Yeah.
there.
Well, I thought the point of them killing the mother is that chillins are extremely rare, and they're wanting to prevent any further chillins from being able to detect purity of heart, right? So they're trying to stop that line, I suppose, take what they presume to be the one chillin existing at this time, kill it, reanimate it so that it does what they want. So that was kind of my takeaway, but I agree that that scene was hard to watch. It was so heart-wrenching. It was the most emotional that I felt in the film. But I understood why they did it. And you know what? For all the problems I have with the election storyline, that chillin' is so damn cute. I melted every time it was on the screen. The scene with Jacob playing with the chillin', like they're playing in the Hogshead. I was like, oh my God. It was so cute. I can't even talk about it. I was so heartwarmed.
I will say the whole bowing thing, a little too close to hippogriffs for me. I wish they came up with something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, it was like the same kind of bow too. It looked like a little hippogriff.
Like if it just like peed itself. That would have been better.
What?
Yeah.
It submits. It's like, I'm going
Or
to
it
pee in
vomits.
submission.
Yeah. It's like, oh, ew. It's like, it shows you. You're special.
as
And
you've been
actually-
talking about this. Oh, go ahead, Laura.
No, you go. I'm laughing.
As we've been talking about, not what I just mentioned, but the chillin' in general, like I'm trying to draw like the comparisons between the fact that there was another sibling, right? Because so much about this series has been about siblings, Newt and Theseus, Aberforth and Albus. You can find a way to probably weave Credence into that mix as well. You have Tina and Queenie, right? So the fact that there was this other sibling that Grindelwald completely ignored, or he just wasn't informed about, and again too, like Yusuf and Lita. So like I'm trying to like do the mental math and draw some comparisons here. Maybe it's for a future episode, but I don't think that's unintentional.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Well, there's that scene where Newt has to explain to the good surviving Chillin that the zombie Chillin is not, in fact, its sibling, and it can't communicate with it the way it wants to. It just trots over and wants to chat with its sibling, like, "Hey, I'm good to see you," and it just your heart just breaks.
Yeah. And actually, Isabel is pointing out in our Discord, the twin Chillins reminded me of the twin cores of the wands for some reason, too. So there's, I think, I agree, Micah. This was not unintentional. And I think if we had this story as a book, there would be so much more deep analysis that we would be able to do.
Well, the screenplay arrives this July.
Why? It doesn't make any sense.
I'll just throw in my favorite beast. The Bunty award goes to the Wyvern. I thought that whole scene was so cool, and how the beasts were actually communicating with each other to save Newt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also was
What?
really,
I missed that.
oh yeah, like when Newt was down and out, like it was a whole communication chain that was going on to rescue him and get him out of the forest there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Remember
damn.
the suitcase pops open and I think Teddy or another.
And Pickett.
Yeah, they pop out and they're like communicating with each other. And then the Wyvern comes out, right?
They
Like-
pack up the case,
Oh.
and
Yeah.
the Wyvern is sure to grab
guess
it
I
with
didn't
its
really
tail and
Understand
carry
what? Okay. I did like when one creature was like making the suitcase walk. Was that scene?
That was before when Newt is running.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
summons the arm case thing. That's hilarious.
The Wyvern was probably one of the more original beasts, the most original beasts in this movie. Like the Chillin, like, yeah, it's cute, but it looks like a baby deer. The Manticores were just crabs. The Wyvern, on the other hand, was like an all original beast. And if I had to make one ding against the actual beasts in this movie, it's that they weren't as original as some of the other ideas that we've seen before. They're just kind
True.
of updated versions of real Muggle world beasts. But my favorite creature, because of how unoriginal these were, at least appearance wise, my favorite beasts were the little blue things waddling around in the Bhutan action scenes. I don't know what they were.
That's the Deercall.
Oh, was it?
That's the Deercall. Yeah.
Okay, I don't follow the beast
And
at
they-
all. I'm not here
and they-
for the beasts and Fantastic Beasts. I'm just here for Dumbledore and Grindelwald fighting.
It's the dodo bird. Well, you will enjoy the #1 Deercall fan club Facebook group, of which I'm
Okay,
the
I need
admin
to
of.
join that. That's why I
Yeah.
didn't realize that those were those.
Yeah.
What
More
are they called? The
content coming
deer
soon.
call?
Deercall.
Deer
They're,
call.
they're basically the dodo.
Okay.
Like the joke is that they are the dodo bird. So the dodo bird is not extinct. It's just that they were always these deer calls that could disappear and transport.
Okay. All right. Our final Bunty category, favorite scene. So I think I need to watch the movie one or two more times to decide what my favorite scene is. There was a lot that I really enjoyed. But for now, I'm going to say the Queenie Jacob marriage. It was just really heartwarming, feel good. Like I said in the last episode, it was good seeing everybody together. Like I also said in the last episode, it really broke my heart seeing Dumbledore watch from the outside. It just said a lot about where Dumbledore was at in that moment. So the end, but not because the movie was ending. I liked the end because it was a really sweet ending.
Yeah, despite the fact that there's probably tons of trauma they need to talk about and sort out, you do like the characters, I think, fundamentally. So you like seeing them get together and get married. And I loved it was clearly a metaphor at the beginning of the movie where the cake topper has fallen over and the groom is just like laying there and he's like down and out. And then at the end, it's back. And it's just like, I see what's happening here. It was crazy.
That cake had to be moldy by then, though.
Oh, yeah. Probably, unless it's plastic. But the favorite scene for me, the Erksdog, everything to do with the crabs. I mentioned before, that's like my favorite sequence in the movie. It's my favorite scene. It's fun. The musical score, I'm going to be dancing to that for ages. It's streaming on Spotify, by the way.
Yeah, I have to agree with Eric here. Like I said in the last episode, this was my favorite sequence in the movie. It was the one time in the movie where I was able to fully unplug and just enjoy it because it was so reminiscent of the environment that we're used to getting in Wizarding World movies.
Yeah, and for me, I know I mentioned this in the last episode, but my favorite scene was the opening scene between Grindelwald and Dumbledore, really reintroducing Grindelwald as a character, being played by Mads Mikkelsen, just the rawness of that conversation and the establishment of Grindelwald as the villain, I thought was just really, really well done.
I agree. I can totally see that being a favorite scene. It was one of the best scenes that we've gotten in this whole franchise so far.
Agreed with that. So let's move on to some odds and ends, just a variety of things we felt and thought while seeing the movie that we haven't been able to get to yet. What did we think of Grindelwald's little visions in the puddles and the mirrors? I thought they were actually kind of hard to make out.
Agree.
Yeah. If you're not looking very carefully, you miss them.
Yeah.
But the series has to show it somehow. Like it's weird because at first when he kills the Chillin, like you see the first vision in the puddle of blood. First of all, it's like a mustache man, and I don't know what that has to do with anything, like that very first vision. But also,
Isn't
if he's not
Yusuf?
actively,
Yusuf has a mustache.
I think it was
Okay.
Yusuf.
It looked more like the jailer to me. But anyway, in general, the idea that he's killed the Chillin, now he sees visions now in just random places was kind of cool. I guess it was the best way they could kind of communicate that he's going to continue to see the future sporadically as a result of his actions. But they didn't explain what happened to the hookah.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, what? So wait, again, I'm wondering what the explanation behind this is. Like we know, like the Potter books, for example, give an explanation to why killing a unicorn is a bad thing, right? And we're supposed to believe that about the Chillin, but yet it gives Grindelwald this power that he had with the hookah in the last movie, and there's just no connection explained. So visually,
why does he need to do this?
Yeah, visually it was fine, but again, it just brings me back to the question of how does this work in this universe? And really wishing that they would explain it.
So we talked about the marketing materials for this movie, Hogwarts and the Phoenix and all of this. How do we feel now, having seen the film, about how much Hogwarts was used?
Like I said in last week's episode, that teaser poster was extremely misleading. The Phoenix, okay, you can justify putting that on a poster. But Hogwarts, it takes like an hour to get to Hogwarts, and they're not there for long. It was a total marketing move to draw people into the theater. And I shudder to think what's going to happen with the marketing for the next movie, because now what we're seeing from the box office so far, and keep in mind we're recording this on release weekend of the movie, so we don't have the final box office results yet, but it does seem to be trending less than Crimes of Grindelwald, and that's with the Hogwarts marketing. So they have to do it again for the next one.
You need Dan Radcliffe on the poster.
Also,
Yes.
I'll point out all of the Hogwarts scenes that were in the movie we saw before the movie was released.
That's true. Yeah, we didn't go anywhere else.
We didn't see anything new in the movie. And that's another gripe I have about the marketing. It feels like every scene pretty much that carried any kind of significant story beat we saw before the movie came out, through trailers, through the scene releases, through the, exclusive interview packages that they put out that were interspersed with different scenes. We saw, like, you could piece together the plot of this movie through the marketing that was released ahead of time.
They needed to do that because they needed to convince us, which that was our feedback right after seeing that trailer, was this looks like a more cohesive story than the second movie, because the second movie was such a train wreck that they needed to go all out to be like, we have a plot. We're seriously, we promise it will make sense. But yeah, you're right. Somebody
brought this up earlier, and I totally agree, is that I don't even think we needed to go to Hogwarts at all in this movie. All this, with the exception, well, no, you don't need the Room of Requirement for a port key. You don't need the Great Hall for Dumbledore's like artistic drawing of Bhutan. Yeah. It was fan service. That's what it comes down to. That's why we're there. I will say, and I'm pretty sure of this, Jacob was sitting at a table with Ravenclaws, which was kind of cool to see. Not Gryffindors, even though the Slytherins get them with the cockroach clusters. But again, that's all like fan service for us. And for other people who love the series, but we didn't spend a whole lot of time there. And that's actually what I enjoyed about this film. Like, the whole point of Fantastic Beasts as a series is that we were supposed to go to other places, see other wizarding cultures. And we did get some of that in this film, much more so than in the last film. And the first one probably stands on its own just because we spent the entire time in New York, and that was so cool to be in America for the first time. And I get I'm biased in that respect, but like we as fans have been waiting for that for how many years, to be able to come to America and see the wizarding world. So, all in all though, like I was fine with it. They threw McGonagall in really for no reason. If we're talking about cameos,
that actress had a contract. They needed to do that. But okay, so I mentioned in the last episode that I took two things into the theater when I saw the movie the second time. The first was my notepad that I took all these notes on. The second thing was a stopwatch.
Uh-oh.
And I wanted to know, going in, I was like, man, there sure was a lot of Hogwarts Hogsmeade in that movie. I wanted to time how long any scene, either at Hogwarts or Hogsmeade, what the overall time is versus the runtime of the movie. And I have the answer.
So should we guess the total? Hogwarts or Hogsmeade, you said?
Hogwarts or Hogsmeade.
Okay.
How much time of the movie is spent there?
5.5 minutes.
I'll say 7 minutes.
I'll say 9.5.
It's 22 minutes and 41 seconds.
Really? It didn't feel like that at all.
Yeah. It's, if you really think about it, there's a lot of long, slow scenes in the Hog's Head. And the Great Hall scene is pretty long, and the Room of Requirement, the room which we require scene is long. So there is fully 23 minutes of this film are set in Hogwarts Hogsmeade area. That's a sixth of the overall runtime. So not too shabby.
Complete 180. Are Theseus and Laylee going to get together?
I hope so.
Why do you think that?
Because they show up together at Jacob and Queenie's wedding. It seems like they're showing up together, right?
I thought that they showed up together.
And earlier in the movie, I think there's a line that suggests that, because when they meet on the train, Theseus is like, I'll make sure my wand registration is up to date. Laylee says, I'll make sure my wand registration is up to date.
And he's like, it's out of my jurisdiction anyway.
Yeah, they definitely flirted on the train.
They did.
And with Lita out of the picture now, I mean, it seems like she's dead, right?
We're going to talk about that, but yeah, it's no indication. It would have been interesting having Kama wandering around Nurmengard to see if there wasn't, in fact, a cell at the bottom of the pit that, she might be in.
Yeah, I think it's just better if Theseus ends up with somebody who Newt was not dating. That's also a little strange.
That's not Lita's fault. Yeah, it's good Lita's dead because Newt was dating her and it was a little complicated.
I think they're trying to get away from the whole swapped baby prophecy ship thing from the second movie. So it definitely felt like, there was no body when Lita, quote, died. So that's why we were all thinking and speculating, maybe she's alive somehow. And it feels like they're very much trying to be like, nope, that whole part of the story is done. We are not revisiting this.
Here's another question. Does that whole boat story, baby swap, does that still check out when we're thinking about Aberforth being Credence's father?
Yes.
Do you think that still all connects?
Well,
Yeah.
yes, because the girl was sent away. That's what Albus said. So the woman on the train that's holding the baby is in fact Aberforth's baby mama. And she was holding the baby that was Credence, or was swapped with Corvus Lestrange. So I think it's still unclear if the baby that was sinking came out. But the woman that we saw, which the script book refers to as Credence's mom, is in fact Aberforth's lover. Like, I think that actually makes that clearer.
Okay.
But you have to.
But here's the thing, though, right? If Corvus Lestrange died, that's the end of the Lestrange family line. So how do we then get Rudolphus Lestrange, who marries Bellatrix Black? Are we just supposed to assume that there's another part of the family somewhere out there? Because if you look at that family tree on the sewer wall, the family line should have ended there.
Yeah.
And that to me is always what's been so confusing about this whole thing. And it's like, if you did in fact kill Lita and she's not coming back, what was the point of introducing her in the first place? Especially since you didn't even follow through on her storyline and her
with getting Newt expelled in any event.
Yeah.
And what about the prophecy? Does that all still check out?
Yeah,
Wings
and the
from
thing
the water.
is, we have to revisit our
Great
Nostradamus
Avenger.
stuff, by the way, to see how that checked. We really do. I'm excited for that to be next episode. But we wouldn't care about any of this if we weren't told to care about any of this by the plot of the previous movies. That's the thing that gets me. We're talking about the prophecy, whether it checks out, the Lestrange lineage, whether that checks out. It's all because the movie set this up as being something that would be important. And so for it not to pay off is very actually frustrating.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you guys on that.
Did anyone else, I'm sorry, I'm going all over the map here, so just hang on. Did anyone else think that things were going to get hot and heavy between Credence and Queenie in the scene together, that they were in together?
No, that was just
just
you.
Wait
that was
a
just
second.
you. I'm glad, you know.
Wait a second. So, okay, Credence and Queenie are at Grindelwald's castle, and Credence has his hair down and his shirt is unbuttoned. You see his hairy chest.
I didn't notice that.
Okay, maybe it's time to move on then. No, I really thought that they were going there with just for a moment. I was
James
thinking that.
Newton Howard composes softcore erotica music
I cannot be the only one who was thinking that. Maybe I am amongst this panel, but the unbuttoned shirt. I mean, why was his shirt unbuttoned in like a sexy way? His hair down.
That was his bedroom. I walk around with my shirt unbuttoned.
He was
bedroom.
practically talking like Aberforth. Did anybody catch that, by the way?
Yeah.
He almost sounded like Aberforth in that scene, which I'm sure was very purposeful.
Sounds so whiny in this film. I couldn't stand to listen to him.
Well, I would be whiny too if I was set up as this hugely powerful person and then all of a sudden it's like, he's dying, isn't he? You know he is. Oh, okay, I'm dying? Like, if I weren't such a problematic actor, I'd be pretty pissed about the whole characters just like possibly being written off now.
Yeah, it is interesting though, because in this initial scene, he does sound a lot like Aberforth, but then for the rest of the movie, he sounds really whiny. It's very strange.
I didn't notice that. I'm going to definitely be checking for that on a rewatch.
Our listeners agree with you all too, that
Andrew.
nobody else thought this but me.
Now that you say that, though, I did read about a deleted scene where Queenie says to Credence, "I can be your Nagini."
Oh my God.
Wow.
Every time there was a shot of a rooftop in this movie, especially in Bhutan, I was like, oh, we're going to see Nagini and Credence chilling on top of it again.
Yeah.
So
wow. And, you know, we knew that Nagini wasn't going to be in this movie, but I guess maybe we thought there might be some explanation or some reference to at least close that plot line out. Nothing.
Like, oh yeah, Nagini couldn't
Nothing.
be here because she's the head of the Auror office in a foreign country. She's very busy right now. But like Theseus's
This plot
job,
line got canceled by the internet. That's why we she's not back.
Here's the thing. Theseus is the head of the British Auror Office. That he's introduced as such in this movie. That's Tina's job. That the job that Tina has in America is she's the head of the American Auror Office. So Theseus has the free time to do this movie, but she does not, but they're in the same job. Also, do they interact? Do they know each other? I'd really like to know, because she's like the American correspondent of what he does. Like, I would think that they would have now a relationship. Theseus now has a relationship with a character that Newt is presently romantically interested in. But there's so much that you could pull from there to tell a story, and it's just not touched because the Tina's been shunned. Going back to Credence real quickly. So we know that Obscurials do not survive past childhood. It's extremely unusual, and Newt even says this in the first movie, for Credence to be the Obscurial. We thought it was his younger sister, Chastity or Modesty. I think it's Modesty. But it ends up being him, and he's super old for an Obscurial, which speaks to his power. He's like 15 or whatever then. So now, I guess as a result of just the fact that it's very draining to be an Obscurial, he's dying. Dumbledore's like, he's dying. You know it's true. And by the end of the movie, they've really made him look very, very, very ill. My question is, as a Dumbledore, he has access to a phoenix. And in fact, a phoenix keeps circling him like a buzzard looking for food. But the phoenix has a particular tier that has particular healing capabilities that can heal a basilisk venom coursing through your veins incident. That's so powerful, by the way, that it destroys Horcruxes. It's one of 5 things that destroys Horcruxes. Basilisk venom. And the Phoenix tier can solve it. So, can the Phoenix tier save Credence from his current predicament? Because whatever the answer is, I'm disappointed.
Yes, Eric, the Phoenix could save Credence. However, they have an Ezra Miller problem. So WB is going to divert off canon and off plot again to likely write out Ezra at the very beginning of the 4th movie or in between movies. That is my prediction.
Like, Credence died. Oh, it was a shame, but his Phoenix is right here, and now it's going to go with Albus right now for now.
Right. If anybody can save him, it's Dumbledore. So,
and the Phoenix.
Yeah. I know. I was thinking this the whole time. And when they went into the mirror dimension while they're fighting, why can Credence go there if it's a blood pact? I don't know.
It's the spittle. It's the Albus. And
I always thought it was
just,
anytime we saw that alternate dimension, I always thought it was done to protect everybody else that was around them from.
Yes.
That's what I thought too.
They straight up blow up a bus or a streetcar or something.
Yeah.
And there's nobody on it. And you're like, oh God, all the people, but there's nobody in that dimension.
That makes sense. We have some more bits and bobs to discuss from the movie, but first, Masterclass is back to sponsor this week's episode. I absolutely adore Masterclass. You get to learn from the world's best minds anytime, anywhere, at your own pace, and all in one place. The opportunities on Masterclass are endless. Learn how to write anything from a book or screenplay to just a letter. Learn how to communicate with your boss or your family. How to make dinner worthy of a Michelin star, or just how to make really good scrambled eggs. Whatever you're interested in, there's a masterclass for you. There's over 100 exclusive classes taught by the masters you know and love, and new ones are being added all the time. Mariah Carey, for example, just launched a course on Masterclass about how she makes music. There are so many practical, insightful, cinema-quality courses on Masterclass that would be unimaginable if it weren't for Masterclass. And you get access to everything with a single membership. You can learn from every teacher on the platform from the comfort of your own home on your own devices. They also have this new audio mode, so you can listen while you're driving, taking a walk, etc. We highly recommend you check it out. It is so cool. Get unlimited access to every masterclass, and as a MuggleCast listener, you get 15% off an annual membership. Go to masterclass.com/MuggleCast now. That's masterclass.com/MuggleCast for 15% off Masterclass. We also have a link in today's show notes.
So one of the things that really grinded my gears about this movie, and it's probably my biggest criticism, and I know we've critiqued a bit, I detested how they used Harry Potter lines in this movie. One example, Newt going up to Vogel via Dumbledore and saying, you need to choose between what is right and what is easy. That was one. Number two, Aberforth saying always to Credence when he asked if Aberforth loved him.
That
Come on, Steve Clovis. I mean,
the always one bothered me because, like, if they were part of Snape's bloodline, like, okay, maybe in the family they've used always, but this is a completely different family.
And also, we talked about how Credence's design for this movie is giving off Snape vibes hardcore. And so there's that scene where Credence is sitting against a wall, clearly dying. And we have the always exchange. It felt too on the nose compared to Deathly Hallows Part 2. Like, the way the scene was set felt like they were trying to elicit a connection there. And it's like, oh my God, y'all don't need that. Let your story stand on its own.
I don't think any of you were wrong, but I was grateful for the healthier use of the word always, just because it's like talking about a father's love for his kid. So I'm fine with it. I'm genuinely, I'm like, in the right versus easy, it's a good line. It succinctly conveys what the choice is that Vogel is making.
You could always just use pull out a thesaurus and forever.
I see what you're saying. I would almost be mad if they didn't use those lines though, because ultimately you do want to kind of streamline what you're trying to. Too much of this movie uses other words to talk about things. Like I'm saying, like they don't say mugwump. They just continue to call it 5 different things. It's just like, no, it needs to be streamlined.
No, but here's the thing, right? Like the always line from Snape was something that transcended the entire Harry Potter series. It was like the backbone of what transpired from Sorcerer's Stone all the way through Deathly Hallows. Did Aberforth even know 15 minutes ago that Credence was his son, but he's loved him always? Like,
well, he thought it.
Aberforth has.
Look, speaking from personal experience, Micah, if you have a love child that you know exists out there, but you've never met them, you think about them every day. I'm joking. I don't have a love child.
Synonyms for always, eternally,
Forever.
Perpetually, evermore, forevermore.
All the time.
Till cows come home. Till hell freezes over. Till blue in the face.
Till the
goats come home.
Can you imagine?
Thank you, thesaurus.com, for those.
Oh my God.
But on a related note, Micah, there was one musical cue that bugged me. Not Hedwig's theme when returning to Hogwarts. That was fine. But I don't know what song it was, but when the suitcases started doing their antics in Bhutan, they used a song from Harry Potter. Was it?
I felt like it was the... similar.
Like
was it a Weasley one?
Yeah, I think it was a Weasley song, maybe.
Yeah. It just... And yeah, because it was like... It symbolized like the antics of the scene.
Yeah.
But it was directly from Harry Potter, and I just thought it was distracting. They didn't need to pull something from a Weasley antic scene and place it in here, because then you're just thinking about Harry Potter. You're not thinking about what's going on in the moment.
Well, all of the things bursting out of suitcases were pretty much things from Hogwarts. So I felt like it was kind of like Hogwarts saves the day. You know?
Oh,
right.
There was a
Quidditch one.
Mm-hmm.
There was like the Monster Book of Monsters was in there.
Yeah, which I was like, was that even published
How did
at this point
not
in time?
notice these things?
No. But yeah, that I liked the musical cues, but particularly the suitcase one. I just thought it was hilarious seeing adults attacked by donuts. And pastries. So I bought into the just genuine fun and reckless abandon of that scene, music included.
So those are our odds and ends for now. We'll have much more in the weeks and months ahead. We're only about a month away from the movie being released on HBO Max. So I think we'll do a movie commentary probably around the time that it's released. And I can't wait to do that, because when I was watching the movie, I had things I wanted to react to in real time with the panel here. So that'll be fun. But, overall, I really did enjoy this movie. I think it is very rewatchable. Like I said in last week's episode, I enjoyed it a lot more the second time. And, like I also said, I think earlier in this episode, there wasn't a moment where I wanted to leave the theater to take a bathroom break. And I think that's very good news. I did not feel like Crimes of Grindelwald is rewatchable at all. It feels painful to watch.
It is.
So overall, I'm satisfied with this movie. Critics don't love it as much as I do, but that's okay. We'll talk about that more probably in a future episode. It seems like fans overall seem to really like it. Are you guys getting that vibe from?
I've heard some people say it's their favorite of the three. I would never say that, but it's really good. And it's better than the second one. I would never say it's my favorite of the three, but people really believe that. And you know what? No shame. Because if you liked, I think it's the people that really did like the Dumbledore stuff from like the lore and are really excited to see this version of Dumbledore. I can't abide by the sidelining of the beasts and the characters of the core four to make room for that story. But again, it's all about what you like.
They really did try to tie beasts into the plot of this movie. And I think we have to celebrate that, because that's been a common critique we've had about the movies in recent years. They're going off the Fantastic Beasts title and focusing on Dumbledore and Grindelwald. But now they have brought the beasts in again. So
yeah,
we got to applaud that.
Yeah,
I agree. And I know, like, we've poked, we've prodded. That's what we do here, right? We critique. That said, I would definitely, to your point, Andrew, watch this movie again and again. I just think it delivers. There's plenty of action, right? There's beasts.
2 episodes ago, we were like, Micah, you get to see the movie again? And you were like, I'm good.
Not in theaters, though, but at HBO Max, I can do it in the comfort of my own home. I don't have to be in a freezing theater, by the way. That was so cold in there. I should have brought gloves. But anyway, I do think people will enjoy this film. I don't know that we felt the same way after seeing Crimes of Grindelwald, but for Secrets of Dumbledore, I think I said this at the top of the last episode that we did, this could be a sequel by itself to Fantastic Beasts, because so much of the nonsense that happened and didn't make sense in Crimes of Grindelwald, you could just toss it to the side and things open up. You know, that would also remove pretty much all of Johnny Depp, which may work for people as well. You know, you open up with Dumbledore and Grindelwald talking about their past and how they feel about each other. I don't know. Maybe you're missing a few things here and there to connect the threads, but I could see it.
I think this movie was put at a pretty major disadvantage because of the prior entry to the series. I think all of that in mind, there is still a lot that fans can enjoy from this movie. And if you enjoyed this movie, I totally understand why. There was a lot of really good nostalgia in this movie. There was some nostalgia that felt not earned, I will admit. So I'll, ultimately say it was an okay movie. And there are plenty of reasons to enjoy it. If you enjoyed it, there were portions of it that I definitely did enjoy. Certainly a much better entry than the last one. And I honestly think this is going to be the end of the series.
Yeah, we'll see. It all rides on the box office.
Yeah.
And like I said, we're recording opening weekend, so we don't know how it's going to look yet, but it is trending downward, it seems so far, compared to Crimes of Grindelwald in the first movie. So I will say my prediction is one more movie to wrap things up, and then they're going to move on. I don't know if it'll be in theaters. Maybe it'll go straight to HBO Max, but 90 minutes, 2 hours. It's not going to be another 2.5 hour movie because they got to do this for cheaper as well. So yeah, one and done. One more and done.
I mean, I think this film cost, what was it, $200 million?
I think that's right.
Something like that.
And it's always said that that same amount is spent on marketing. So yeah, it looks like 200 million, and then they're going to spend another 200 million on marketing, presumably. Well, on that note, thanks everybody for tuning in. Again, we would love to get your thoughts, your theories on the movie and what lies ahead. You can write to us or send a voice message by emailing MuggleCast@gmail.com. You can also leave a voicemail on our phone. The number is 1-920-3-MUGGLE. That's 1-920-368-4453. And if you're recording a voice message, just record a message using the voice memo app on your phone. You can also use the contact form on MuggleCast.com to write to us, and we'll probably get to your feedback next week. Can't wait to read all of that. And now it's time for Quizzage.
Last week's question, James Newton Howard, composer of the Fantastic Beasts series, also composed the music for the film adaptations of this young adult post-apocalyptic fiction book series, once marketed as the next Harry Potter. That was a mouthful. The correct answer is, of course, The Hunger Games, which has very good music. Correct answers were submitted by many people, including Nerdier Than Neville, Yusuf Come On Over, Time-Traveling McGonagall, Bacon Boss, Snuggly Voldemort, Dobby and Narcissa Lovers Forever, Whiskey to Goat, Jacob and Queenie's Baby, Shamanator, Scarlet Pepper, Jessica the Friendly Neighborhood Slytherin, one of Dumbledore's Not-So-Great Secrets, Silly Unicorn, Professor Stumblemore, The Weight of Living as a Muggle, Smush Golden Snidget, and This Isn't Quizjeopardy. Thank you to everyone with your colorful names who submitted to us using the form on the MuggleCast website, mugglecast.com/Quizzage. And here's an easy one if you've seen the new movie for next week's Quizzage. According to Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore, what is Bunty's surname? And submit your answer to us over on the website.
Sounds good. Don't forget to follow the podcast for free in your favorite podcast app and leave us a review if they allow you to. You can also follow us on social media. We're MuggleCast on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And finally, patreon.com/MuggleCast is where you can support us. You get ad-free MuggleCast, you get bonus MuggleCast installments, you get a new physical gift every year if you pledge $5 or more. All kinds of things. Check it out, patreon.com/MuggleCast. We couldn't do this without you, so thank you very much. And thank you for listening to today's episode. I'm Andrew.
I'm Eric.
I'm Micah.
And I'm Laura.
And the past whispers to you.
Always.
Bye, everybody.